Pizza Hut is dying. The once biggest pizza franchise has been closing store after store recently, and the next time you go to the store near you, take in the atmosphere and breathe in the delightful aroma of a pizza leaving the oven, because that store could close any time. In this video, we look at why this pizza giant is struggling as we take you on a journey of its history. But first, what's happening? Why is Pizza Hut closing so many locations? While the chain can blame COVID-19 for its recent woes, it has been having issues before the lockdown that arose as a result of COVID. In August 2019, long before the lockdowns, the business declared that it would close around 500 stores out of its 7,496 restaurants across the U.S. by 2021. The business claimed the planned closure was to ensure that it could serve its customers better in the remaining locations. What prompted the announcement was the company had noticed that their dine-in locations had become unpopular. People didn't want to eat out, and it became so bad that only 10% of the company's business came from their dine-in locations. Dine-in is waning in relevance, Pizza Hut CFO David Gibbs said in 2018, long before the announcement of the company's intentions to close the dine-in businesses. Although the CFO did promise that the company intended to change the stores, they planned to close down to express pizza locations, allowing customers to get their pizzas faster and leave. Then COVID came, and the business took a hit. While the franchise owners tried to adapt to the COVID-19 restrictions by providing more takeout services or switching to outdoor dining, it wasn't enough. Many locations became unprofitable, and the business had to close them down. However, apart from the pandemic, one of the business's franchise owners, NPC International, went bankrupt, and as a result, the company had to close down additional stores in 2020. However, these are not the only reasons why the company isn't doing well. But before we get to that, let us take you through the Pizza Hut journey of how it rose to the top only to come crashing down. In 1958, two brothers, Dan and Frank Carney, both college students attending Wichita State, had an idea that they believed was a surefire moneymaker. Their idea was a pizza place, but they needed help. The two didn't have the capital they needed to begin the business, so they went home to meet their mom and ask for a loan of $600. They found a partner named John Bender and rented their first store, a small building at 503 South Bluff in downtown Wichita. Having secured a place, the brothers and their partner didn't have enough money for new equipment, so they bought used ones for their operations. Then it was time for them to choose a name. The problem was the sign they could afford only had space for 8 letters, so the brothers couldn't go for any elaborate, showy name. They decided to go with Pizza Hut and opened for business. But on the first night, they didn't make any sales. No, it wasn't that people didn't patronize them. The brothers just decided to give the pizza out for free. It was a marketing strategy that worked like a charm because people returned for more. The business was so great that in the next 6 months after opening, the brothers had already opened another location, and before the year ended, they had 6 locations. With their business's success, the brothers had to decide how to expand further and decided to franchise. And if you like to learn about the history of your favorite eateries, be sure to subscribe for more content like this. However, the brothers were strategic. Rather than just giving anyone their first franchise, they chose who they could trust. Dick Hazard was Dan Carney's friend and a former schoolmate. Dick had had enough of his job as an insurance agent and looked for an alternative. Dan gave him the option of managing a franchise in 1959, and Dick grew to own multiple franchises, but he was much more than a franchise owner. He also became an essential part of the business. He invited more people to join the franchise and persuaded people not to leave. The business expanded in the 60s with brothers buying John Bender out of the company. Slowly, the business gained more structure as the brother appointed a treasurer, Robert Chisholm. But with the growth of their stores, which had grown to 145 in 1966, the structure had to evolve. The brothers tried to keep up with the growth of their business. However, when International Pizza Hut Franchise Holder Association, IPH-FHA, acquired 40% of the company's franchise operations, things got out of control. The franchise owners at the IPH-FHA got its franchise from didn't have a unified account, and while trying to fix the mess, the business declined. But in the middle of this mess, the business began to brand itself better. And in 1969, it implemented the iconic building style it would be associated with. In 1970, the business opened its 500th store in Nashville, Tennessee. and expanded outside America to Munich, Germany, and Sydney, Australia. However, things weren't entirely right. Frank Carney realized something had to change with the company's business strategy, which was reactive. However, before coming up with a solid plan, the content went public, expanded rapidly, and the brothers completely lost control. But what could have been what would weaken the company became something the brothers learned from. They formed their strategy and came out on top as the largest pizza chain in the world, and things could only get better. The franchise expanded to Japan and Great Britain in 1973, and by 1976, the chain had 100 other stores internationally and around 2,000 stores in total. As it expanded, the business remained committed to advertising, with its local advertising expenses crossing $3.17 million in 1973. The expenses in the advertisement, along with its other strategies, yielded positive results, and the cherry on top came when PepsiCo bought the company in 1977. The company continued its success, and its dine-in store was the rave among its customers. Despite facing competition, the chain held them off and introduced new menu items into the market. The competitors stood no chance with the business using PepsiCo's marketing resources. The company's rival could not catch a break, as PepsiCo named Steven Reinemund the company's president and CEO, and it was game over for the competition. Under Steven, in 1986, the restaurant opened its 5,000th store and opened a store in Russia in 1990. The business adapted to the Russian tastes, and it became a hit there. It got to the point that when it came to sheer volume, no other Pizza Hut location could compete with the one in Russia. The business was taking everything the market had to offer, and with its home delivery and PizzaNet in 1994, it was able to hold off fiercer competitors, one of them being McDonald's. Another way that the business stayed at the top was by creating drive-through stores and express restaurants, which the company put in strategic positions like schools, malls, offices, cafes, and so on. These new non-dine-ins worked like a charm and grew quickly. The business wasn't focused only on taking from people. It gave back in one of the most impactful ways ever. It created a literacy program, Book It, National Reading Incentive Program, to help improve literacy among young people. What better way to motivate younger people to be literate than free pizzas when they hit a new milestone in literacy? The company peaked. While the changes it made in the operational concepts, such as the introduction of drive-thrus and express units, helped it compete, they also drained it of capital. The competition was able to cut the prices of their products, but Pizza Hut couldn't do the same, and the market swung towards cheaper pizzas. As a result, there was a drop in sales for the first time in years in 1994. But the business wasn't about to just roll over. The parent company, PepsiCo, appointed Roger A. Enrico as the new head of the restaurant division, and he swung into action. He spent heavily to promote the business's new item on the menu, the stuffed crust pizza. The promotion worked, and the company significantly improved, but things were still bad. PepsiCo had invested too much in Pizza Hut to the detriment of its other interests, so it had to spin it off under a company called Tricon Global Restaurants, Inc., which changed its name to Yum in 2002. However, currently, as we have mentioned early on in the video, things don't look so good for the business. In 2012, it recorded a drop in sales. To tackle the problem, Pizza Hut introduced new menu items and tried to rebrand. First, it got new uniforms for its employees. Secondly, the company went back to its roots by bringing back its old logo and red roof. Returning to its roots by reinstating its old logo and red roof might be just what could save the business from the series of problems it's facing. But the company has to do more if it is going to beat the allegations that it doesn't have an identity. Every fast food restaurant has an identity. It could be a crazy mascot or drive-in gimmick. It could be anything. When you think of Pizza Hut, what do you remember? Exactly. The brand needs a strong identity, but this isn't the only problem it needs to fix. Another issue that the company should look at is its pricing. While before it was able to blitz through the competition, the business has been playing catch-up with how other pizza places have managed to sell cheap pizzas. Fixing this is crucial for the survival of its business. The big question remains if Pizza Hut will eventually close down. Personally, we doubt it. It has survived periods of instability before, and it should survive this one if it adapts to the market. If it doesn't change its prices, the company could slowly sink until every store closes. What do you think? Should the company keep its current prices, or should it bring them down? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support our channel.